escalation of violence in Rafah, Gaza, has once again brought the Israeli-Palestinian conflict to the forefront of global attention. This latest offensive, marked by airstrikes and ground incursions, has resulted in significant casualties and displacement, further deepening the humanitarian crisis in the region. The Rafah offensive is not merely another chapter in a seemingly endless conflict. It represents a critical juncture that could have far-reaching consequences for both sides and the wider international community. Understanding the significance of this offensive requires delving into the historical, political, and human dimensions of the conflict. The plight of civilians caught in the crossfire, the complexities of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and the role of international actors all contribute to the gravity of the situation in Rafah. The world watches with bated breath, hoping for a swift resolution while grappling with the potential ramifications of this latest eruption of violence. The international community faces a daunting task in navigating the complexities of the Rafah offensive. Balancing condemnation of violence with efforts to broker a ceasefire requires deft diplomacy and a deep understanding of the historical context. The stakes are undeniably high, with the potential for the conflict to escalate further and destabilize the entire region. As the situation unfolds, the world must grapple with the immediate humanitarian crisis while working towards a lasting and peaceful resolution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The roots of the conflict in Rafah, and indeed the wider Israeli-Palestinian conflict, run deep, stretching back over a century. To comprehend the current situation, one must delve into the historical context that has shaped the present-day realities. The establishment of Israel in 1948, following the British Mandate for Palestine, resulted in the displacement of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians, creating a refugee crisis that continues to reverberate today. The Six-Day War in 1967 witnessed Israel's capture of the Gaza Strip, including Rafah, further complicating the situation. The Oslo Accords in the 1990s offered a glimmer of hope, but the path to peace has been marred by broken promises, failed negotiations, and continued violence. The Second Palestinian Uprising, or Intifada, in the early 2000s exacerbated tensions and solidified divisions. The Israeli disengagement from Gaza in 2005, while intended to ease tensions, ultimately led to the rise of Hamas, considered a terrorist organization by Israel, the United States, and other Western powers. Hamas's control of Gaza, coupled with Israel's ongoing blockade, has created a volatile situation marked by periodic escalations of violence, of which the current Rafah offensive is the latest manifestation. The historical context, characterized by displacement, occupation, and broken promises, serves as a stark reminder of the deep-seated grievances and mistrust that continue to fuel the conflict. The Rafah offensive, like previous escalations in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, is viewed through vastly different lenses by those directly affected. Understanding these perspectives, while challenging given the deeply entrenched narratives, is crucial to navigating the complexities of the conflict. Israelis view the offensive as a necessary measure to protect their citizens from rocket fire emanating from Gaza, which they consider a hostile entity controlled by a terrorist organization. The constant threat of rocket attacks and the use of tunnels for infiltration have fueled a sense of insecurity among Israelis living near the Gaza border. For Palestinians in Gaza, particularly those in Rafah, the offensive represents yet another chapter in a long history of suffering and displacement. They view the Israeli actions as disproportionate and indiscriminate, resulting in civilian casualties and further destruction of already fragile infrastructure. The blockade imposed by Israel, which severely restricts the movement of people and goods in and out of Gaza, has exacerbated the humanitarian crisis, leading to widespread poverty, unemployment, and a sense of hopelessness. The differing narratives, often fueled by historical grievances and mistrust, make finding common ground and achieving a lasting peace all the more challenging. The Rafah offensive has drawn widespread condemnation from the international community, with many expressing deep concern over the escalating violence and its impact on civilians. The United Nations has called for an immediate ceasefire, urging both sides to exercise restraint and prioritize the protection of civilians. The United States, while reiterating its commitment to Israel's security, has also expressed concern over the growing humanitarian crisis in Gaza. European nations have echoed these sentiments, calling for a de-escalation of violence and a return to dialogue. The Arab League, meanwhile, has condemned Israel's actions as a war crime and called for international pressure to end the offensive. The offensive's implications extend beyond the immediate humanitarian crisis, threatening regional stability and jeopardizing already fragile peace prospects. The potential for the conflict to spill over into neighboring countries, as witnessed in previous escalations, remains a significant concern. Moreover, the continued cycle of violence and retribution further hardens positions, making a negotiated settlement all the more elusive. The international community faces a daunting task in navigating these complexities, balancing the need to address the immediate crisis with the long-term goal of achieving a just and lasting peace. As the situation in Rafah continues to unfold, the international community grapples with the challenging task of finding a path towards peace and stability. The immediate priority must be to secure a ceasefire, halting the violence and alleviating the humanitarian suffering in Gaza. However, a lasting solution requires addressing the root causes of the conflict, including the Israeli occupation, the blockade of Gaza, and the Palestinian right to self-determination. Meaningful dialogue between Israeli and Palestinian leaders is essential, but such talks have been stalled for years, hampered by mistrust and a lack of political will. The involvement of international actors such as the United States, the European Union, and regional powers remains crucial in facilitating dialogue and mediating between the two sides. A just and lasting peace must address the core issues of the conflict, including the status of Jerusalem, the right of return for Palestinian refugees, and security arrangements for both Israelis and Palestinians. The international community must remain engaged,